It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is the Kyle Hyman Show. I'm Andrea Serrani filling in for Kyle today with Jacob Laskowski from 86 Creative. And we've been talking a lot about evangelization and some of the tools that Bishop Robert Barron suggested in a speech he gave last week. But you work in storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, storytelling, marketing, evangelization, they're all kind of very similar words in terms of what I get to do.
Yeah, they're all ways of communicating a message. Right. And that's what we're doing with evangelization. It's just our message is about Jesus.
Exactly.
So tell me about your work then.
Yeah. So I started out as a missionary with Focus, I mentioned, and worked on campus for 2 years and then worked in their headquarters in Denver for 2 years in marketing. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, this is a dream job. I get to do what I'm best at for the church.
Yeah.
And it was a remarkable time that I got to really use my talents. And then when I moved to Fort Wayne, I wanted to be able to continue to do that. And so I started my company then. And I've had the chance to, I really have a very unique window inside the life of the church today in the sense that I work with dozens of apostolates and ministries in the church that are doing phenomenal work, whether it's Focus or the Amazing Parish or Obria, the Evangelical Catholic, even here locally, Kingdom Builders and Exodus 90. And essentially, what I get to do is help people understand what they do. And communicate it more effectively to people. And I caught that bug when I was at Focus, and I experienced what I call the Focus brand on campus, and it was youthful and relevant and lively and attractive. And the visual brand of Focus at the time was in all caps, Times New Roman font,
right.
And it was very old and bank-like. And their tagline and their messaging and their images did not communicate
that
what
fun,
I knew.
lively.
It wasn't communicating
engaging.
their brand effectively.
Nobody is talking about their bank as fun and lively.
Exactly. No, nobody does. Unless you have a lot in there, then maybe it's fun. And so when I was able to be a part of that rebrand, as we call it, and changing the logo and changing the messaging and changing the colors, it was kind of sparked like, oh, wow, this is what I'm really, really good at. And this is what I can do. And so this is what I spend every day doing and what I think about when I sleep.
Yeah.
It's very easy and it comes to me very, very simply. So one of the things that is vital to me in terms of how we can utilize this in the church is that back to what we were saying before about, well, Jesus had meals with people. This is what he did. You know what else he did? He told stories.
Yeah.
He didn't come down and just say, hey, here are all the rules. Here's everything you need to know. He started with a story.
And I would even say that those are the things we actually remember the best from the Gospels, are the stories that Jesus told, those parable lessons.
And this is just natural to our human mind, is that through all different religions or faiths or whatever the case may be, from all the way down to, fireplace, cavemen kind of people like this, they told stories. That's how they passed on things to different people through generations, is through storytelling. And that's what, to go back and forth with the term brand and storytelling, to me, those are very much the same thing.
Yeah.
When you have a brand, you're telling a story about who you are and what you're trying to do and communicate. And I think in particular way, one of the best storytellers of brands in our culture today is Chick-fil-A. Right? When I said that name, you thought of something, didn't you?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought of really nice people and a cow.
Yeah.
Which is funny because they don't
serve beef. Yeah.
Cows.
Yeah, but you thought really nice people. Why? Yeah. Because there are really nice people that work there, and that's their brand. That's their story that they put out.
Yeah.
And every person that works for Chick-fil-A knows the Chick-fil-A mission. And they know that they don't serve chicken, they serve people. And when you go there, don't you believe that?
Yes. I literally tell this story about my life being changed by going to a Chick-fil-A.
Oh, well, now I got to hear this.
Well, it's not quite so dramatic, but I really one of the fondest memories I have of ever eating in a restaurant, let alone a fast food restaurant, is I was having just a terrible day. I was really, really stressed about some things and so stressed. The only way I'm going to eat today is if I just get something really fast from this restaurant. And I went up to the cash register at Chick-fil-A. I'm just trying to order really quickly and get my food. And totally unprompted, they're always really polite, but totally unprompted, the cashier said, "How are you doing?" And actually was wanted to know how I was doing. And I don't know if it was because I looked really stressed or whatever, but I was just wow, wow.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, here, let me get this done as soon as I can. It was like the cash register sees a person, a human being, and wants to interact with a human being, and not just a person who's not just like a money facilitator. It wasn't just a contract. And just having someone recognize my humanity in that moment was like really broke through my like fog of I'm having a really bad day. And so I'm always like, just if you're having a bad day, you should go to Chick-fil-A because they are guaranteed to be nice to you, and that will make your day better.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think another great storyteller, and for better or worse, learning from who's doing it well is Starbucks. They tell a story that when you hold that cup, it says something different about you, the person holding the cup, than if you were holding a 7-Eleven cup.
Right.
It says something very much different.
Yes.
And that's all about brand. And if you think of the top 10 fast food restaurants, what do you think all of them have in common visually?
You know what they are just from their logo. You don't need like any words. You are going to know the logo is going to say something very specific.
Are there similarities of color?
Oh, color. Just like they're all like one, maybe two colors.
They're all simple. Red and yellow.
Red and yellow. Yeah.
And the reason is because psychologically those colors elicit hunger.
Oh, hunger.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh.
Yeah. So in addition, on the road, they stand out because they're different from the green road signs, but they also elicit that hunger subconsciously in the brain. And so those types of decisions, when they come down to, gosh, what color palette should we use for this? Well, they're going to use the one that they know is going to impact their bottom line the most.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I heard one time about Chick-fil-A in particular was Patrick Lencioni. He's a Fortune 500 consultant. And he said, he had a conversion back to the faith, and he's talking about how this interacts with the church. And he said, if that Chick-fil-A down the road, all those employees know the mission and believe that mission, shouldn't everybody here at the parish think the same way?
Yeah.
And believe that mission as much as they can and live that out so that when you go to your parish and someone says, how are you? That you have that same interaction with them. Because how much more important is the church and sharing the faith than a chicken sandwich?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I never have had like really amazingly positive, changed my whole day interactions at my parish. But I'm also like, none of them are sticking out to me the way that my interaction at Starbucks.
Yeah, it should feel like we're coming home,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what really gets me going about what I get to do is I get to go in and consult and work with these incredible teams in the church that are doing awesome work, and they've got their heads down and they're doing the work, but they need somebody to come in and help them communicate that externally and let people know, hey, this is what we're doing. And we're doing really well at it.
Yeah.
And it's a great way that I get to be able to use what I love and do for something that I know is going to matter far more than any of the work that I do in the secular world.
Yeah.
It's really thrilling.
So knowing the mission, so important for those of us at a parish, but what would you say are like the first steps we would need to take to get there with, let's even start smaller. Like, let's say our own families. Like if we want to start becoming evangelizers as a family, like we want to start sharing Jesus with people, even in the most basic ways, but we need to be clear on what that is and how we're going to do it. What do we do first?
Yeah. Invite your friends to dinner. Yeah. Or that couple that always sits behind you at mass. You always give them peace at the sign of peace, but you never talk to them,
Yeah.
And that can be awkward, unfortunately, in the Catholic Church, that people would talk to people after church that I know you, I don't know your name.
Yeah, I see you.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot at church retreats that I've been to where they're like, oh, I've known these people for 20 years.
Yeah.
I've never known their name, and that's a great thing that church breaks down for people. But it should be easier than that. You should be able to just turn around and say, hey, let's start up a conversation, or people that are similar to you in your life stage where they've got young kids. Like there's something that very clearly you can bond over. I think that's the key. I think it all starts with a meal.
Yeah. Yeah. So then how do we transition then from we just are getting to know these people and then communicating the faith in a concrete way? Is there like a real transition point, or is it just sort of that living witness?
Yeah, I think in some sense both and. But in that first meal, there's going to be conversation about faith. It's going to come up in some sense. If you're inviting someone into your house that maybe isn't Catholic, they're going to see the crucifix on the wall, and they're going to see Mary on the wall, and like, what's this? Or maybe,
or even you just say, we pray before our meals.
Right.
Know,
yeah. Praying before the meal. And that
Yeah.
sparks up a conversation. I have some friends down in Indianapolis who they've got some neighbors, and just through the witness of being neighbors with this other young couple who was on birth control, and they don't go, they're fallen away Christians. They just kind of like, were like, what's different about these people?
Yeah.
And so they went out to dinner, and they had this great conversation and found out that there's a way to not be on birth control.
Right.
And the next weekend they went to Mass together.
Wow.
And they're just having conversations. They gave them the book, Rediscover Jesus, just as a way to like read this as a couple, spark conversation within your own marriage about what's going on here, and then continue to have coffee and lunch with them as that relationship continues to grow.
Yeah. But drawing people in, being able to say, but really probably the first step is Jesus has to actually be the most important thing in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because when you're talking about branding, you're talking about they're already doing really good work. I'm helping them communicate it.
Right.
But we have to be in a place where we're already doing the really good work.
Absolutely.
In order to be able to communicate that.
Right.
So that maybe is even a more primary step than how do we help people see Jesus through our lives, is we have to be communicating Jesus through our lives first.
Yeah, you have to be communicating with Jesus.
Yeah, right.
If you bring somebody into your life and you're living the Catholic faith, in your actions, but your relationship with God is kind of dormant, there's your first problem in evangelization. If I don't have a daily relationship, a daily communication line to the Lord, I can't do what I do.
Right.
And I can't authentically share with you what my faith is.
Yeah.
Because my faith is about a relationship.
Yeah, because otherwise it's sort of, it's hollow, right? It's, I know these things. I can answer your questions, but eventually they're going to dig deep enough to see, this isn't actually important to you.
Right.
And that's where it will end up being sort of, it'll seem inauthentic and like, well, if it doesn't matter that much to you, then all of those answers don't matter.
Right. Right.
And if you really believed that all those answers were true, then it would have changed your life. Yeah. So that's the first step is for all of us to be, is to actually have that mission clear, right? That clarity of mission.
Right.
Because unless we understand really and deeply and profoundly and in a way that has changed our own lives, then there's no story to tell, at least not in an authentic way.
Yeah. Not an attractive story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise the story is, I know all these things, but they don't matter.
Right. Yeah. And now you're just,
and that's a bad story to tell.
Right.
That's a story that's going to turn people away.
Yeah. And I always say this about the church and our faith, that we have the greatest story in the world. I believe that.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, we became really bad storytellers.
Yeah.
And we abdicated that role. We gave that role of storytelling away to our culture, and their story about us, it's not a good one.
No.
It's a pretty negative story.
Yeah.
And the only thing people know about us outside the church is that we're abusive and we don't like people and we protest things.
We don't like freedom. We don't like people to do what makes them happy, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay, well, there's your challenge for the week, everybody. Make the story a real part of your life and then share it with people.
Yeah, have a meal.
I love it.